When you're in a relationship, you expect to feel supported, loved, and connected, both emotionally and physically. Over time, however, things can change, and the dynamics of the relationship may begin to shift. Sometimes, these shifts happen so gradually that they're hard to notice. At other times, they are more obvious, causing you to feel uncertain about where you stand with your partner. One of the most painful things you can experience in a relationship is when the emotional connection begins to fade, leaving you feeling isolated, misunderstood, and even unimportant. As much as we want to believe that love will always remain strong, the reality is that relationships require continuous effort from both partners. When you notice a lack of effort from one side, it can be incredibly disheartening. Emotional distance doesn't happen overnight. It often develops slowly, as small changes in behavior accumulate over time. While some couples may grow stronger as they navigate challenges together, others find themselves drifting apart, unsure of how to reconnect or if they even want to. In a healthy relationship, both partners are engaged, empathetic, and actively invested in each other's well-being. They make an effort to communicate, support one another through difficult times, and plan for a future together. However, when emotional distance sets in, these qualities begin to fade. You might find yourself constantly initiating conversations, while your partner remains passive or distracted. You may notice that they avoid meaningful discussions or withdraw from spending quality time together, leaving you with the painful realization that your emotional needs are no longer being met. Perhaps most concerning of all is when your partner becomes indifferent to the future of the relationship. This indifference doesn't always come with dramatic gestures or confrontational behavior. Sometimes it's in the subtle shifts, the lack of future planning, the absence of thoughtful gestures, or the failure to show empathy towards your needs. It can feel as though you're no longer on the same page or even in the same chapter of life, and that emotional bond you once had is slipping through your fingers. Feeling emotionally distant from your partner can also manifest in a sense of loneliness. You might find yourself in a crowded room, sharing space with your partner, yet feeling completely alone. Their lack of attention or interest in your emotions can create a void that no amount of physical proximity can fill. You may even begin to feel like you're talking to a stranger, someone who used to be your closest confidant, but who now seems like a distant acquaintance. It's important to acknowledge these feelings and recognize when emotional distance is becoming a problem. Addressing these concerns openly and honestly with your partner is crucial to understanding whether the distance is temporary or a sign of something deeper. Relationships require effort, communication, and a mutual willingness to grow and adapt. If one partner is emotionally withdrawing, it's not necessarily the end of the relationship, but it is a call to action. It's an invitation to explore the reasons behind the distance, to rediscover what brought you together in the first place, and to determine whether the relationship is worth fighting for. In this exploration of emotional distance, we will dive into the signs that indicate your partner may be withdrawing emotionally. These signs are often subtle at first, but over time can cause significant strain on the relationship. By understanding these signs, you can take steps to address the issues before they become irreparable, or gain clarity about the future of your partnership. Emotional connection is the foundation of a lasting relationship, and by recognizing and addressing emotional distance early, you can begin to rebuild and strengthen that bond, or make informed decisions about how to move forward. 1. They no longer initiate conversations. When your partner no longer initiates conversations, it's a sign that emotional distance may be creeping into your relationship. In the beginning, conversations flow naturally. Whether it's talking about your day, discussing future plans, or just sharing random thoughts, there's a sense of connection. However, when your partner stops initiating these exchanges, it creates a noticeable shift in the relationship dynamic. This lack of effort can make you feel as though you're constantly putting in the work to keep the relationship alive. You may find yourself reaching out first, starting conversations, or making plans just to keep the connection going. Over time, this can be exhausting and frustrating. It can lead to feelings of being unimportant or undervalued. When one person in a relationship consistently stops initiating conversations, it may be a sign that they are emotionally withdrawing or simply not as engaged in the relationship as they once were. If this behavior continues, you might begin questioning whether your partner truly cares or if they are simply going through the motions. The absence of effort to communicate often indicates that the emotional connection has weakened. Communication is key in any relationship, and when one person stops making the effort to start conversations, it reflects a deeper emotional disconnect. It's not just about the words left unsaid, but the emotional investment that's no longer being made. When you notice this shift, it's important to address it openly, as it could be a symptom of larger issues that need attention in the relationship. 2. You feel like you're talking to a stranger. When you start feeling like you're talking to a stranger, it's a clear sign that emotional distance has begun to take hold. Relationships thrive on familiarity and comfort, and when you've shared so much of your life with someone, the conversations should feel warm and natural. However, if your partner has emotionally withdrawn, even the simplest interactions can begin to feel distant and unfamiliar. This sense of talking to a stranger can be unsettling because it highlights how disconnected you've become. You may notice that their responses seem impersonal, lacking the warmth or depth that once defined your conversations. There's no longer that shared understanding or inside jokes that used to flow effortlessly. Instead, your exchanges may feel forced, like you're speaking to someone you don't know well, rather than the person who used to be your closest confidant. It might not just be the words they say, but their tone or body language that gives you this feeling. A lack of emotional engagement can make you feel invisible, as though they're just going through the motions without truly connecting. In a healthy relationship, communication should feel intimate and supportive, but when emotional distance sets in, it feels as though there's a wall between you. This can be a painful realization, especially when you've invested so much in building a bond with your partner. It's a sign that something significant is missing, and that the emotional connection that once existed is fading, leaving you with a sense of isolation. 3. They avoid deep or meaningful discussions. When your partner starts avoiding deep or meaningful discussions, it can be a major indicator that emotional distance is growing in your relationship. Initially, relationships are built on trust and open communication, where both partners share their hopes, fears, and dreams. However, when this kind of communication starts to feel like a burden or something to avoid, it often means that one person is emotionally withdrawing. This avoidance could manifest in different ways. Perhaps your partner shuts down whenever a serious topic comes up, or changes the subject quickly when you try to have a meaningful conversation. They might seem uncomfortable or even irritated by the idea of discussing emotions, future plans, or issues that affect the relationship. It's as if they no longer want to delve into topics that require vulnerability or openness. At first, you might brush it off as a bad day or momentary distraction, but over time, this becomes a pattern. It leaves you feeling frustrated and disconnected, as though your partner no longer values the depth of your bond, or is no longer interested in addressing the challenges that come with a relationship. Avoiding serious talks often leads to unresolved issues, which only increase the emotional distance between partners. The inability or unwillingness to discuss important topics is often a defense mechanism. Your partner may be shutting down emotionally, perhaps because they're overwhelmed, feeling distant, or unsure about the relationship. This emotional wall can prevent the relationship from growing or evolving, and it leaves you in a constant state of uncertainty, unsure of where you stand. When the emotional connection begins to fade, even the most important conversations can seem too risky or uncomfortable to engage in. 4. You're always the one trying to resolve conflicts. When you find yourself always being the one trying to resolve conflicts, it's a clear sign that the emotional investment in the relationship may be one-sided. Healthy relationships require both partners to actively participate in addressing issues and working towards solutions. However, if you're the only one putting in the effort to resolve conflicts, it can lead to feelings of frustration and resentment. This dynamic often happens when one person emotionally withdraws, either because they're overwhelmed, disconnected, or simply not invested in working through problems. They might avoid confrontation, shut down during discussions, or expect you to handle the emotional labor of resolving the issue. Over time, this can create an imbalance where you feel as though you're carrying the emotional weight of the relationship on your own. The constant responsibility of resolving conflicts can become exhausting, especially if it feels like your partner isn't interested in actively participating in the process. It may leave you questioning whether your concerns are being heard or whether your partner even cares enough to put in the effort to make things better. This imbalance can lead to feelings of emotional burnout as you constantly find yourself trying to fix things while your partner seems content to sit back and let you do all the work. When you're always the one trying to resolve conflicts, it can erode the sense of partnership that's so important in a relationship. A relationship should feel like a team effort, where both partners work together to find solutions and keep the connection strong. If you're the only one making that effort, it might indicate that the emotional bond is weakening, and your partner is no longer fully engaged in nurturing the relationship. 5. They seem distracted or disinterested during conversations. When your partner seems distracted or disinterested during conversations, it can be a painful and telling sign of emotional distance in the relationship. In the early stages, conversations should feel engaging, with both partners actively listening and contributing. However, when someone is emotionally withdrawn, they might appear to be mentally checked out, even when you're speaking directly to them. This disinterest often manifests in a variety of ways. Perhaps your partner keeps checking their phone, looking around the room, or offering short, disengaged responses. They might not make eye contact, and their body language could suggest boredom or detachment. This lack of attention can be hurtful because it feels like you're not valued or important enough to warrant their full attention. At first, you might attribute this behavior to a bad day or external distractions, but when it becomes a consistent pattern, it's a clear signal that your partner is emotionally distancing themselves. It's not just about being physically present, it's about being mentally and emotionally available during conversations. When a partner seems distracted, it indicates that they're not fully engaging with you or the relationship, which can create a significant gap between the two of you. This behavior can also lead to a sense of isolation, as you may feel that your thoughts and feelings are no longer being heard or understood. Over time, this disinterest can erode the emotional connection and leave you feeling disconnected and alone, even when you're sharing the same space. It's a sign that the relationship is no longer as fulfilling or intimate as it once was, and it might require addressing the underlying emotional issues that are causing the distance. 6. They don't make an effort to spend quality time with you. When your partner stops making an effort to spend quality time with you, it's a significant indicator that emotional distance may be creeping into the relationship. In healthy relationships, spending time together is one of the key ways to nurture the bond and maintain a connection. Whether it's going out for a date night, enjoying a quiet evening at home, or simply talking for hours, these moments help reinforce the emotional ties between partners. However, when your partner no longer prioritizes these moments, it can leave you feeling neglected and undervalued. This shift in behavior often starts small, with your partner being too busy or too tired to spend time together. Over time, however, these excuses become more frequent, and you may find yourself alone more often. You might be the one suggesting activities or planning outings, but the enthusiasm is no longer mutual. Your partner's lack of initiative to spend time with you can create a sense of imbalance in the relationship, where one person is putting in all the effort to maintain the connection, while the other is emotionally disengaged. Quality time is not just about being physically present, it's about emotional presence too. When your partner is emotionally distant, they may be physically with you, but not truly engaged in the moment. They might be distracted, uninterested, or not putting in the effort to create meaningful experiences together. Over time, this lack of attention and effort can lead to feelings of loneliness, even when you're in the same room. If this behavior continues, it can leave you questioning whether the relationship is still a priority for your partner. The absence of quality time can gradually erode the emotional foundation of your connection, making it harder to rebuild intimacy and trust. It's a sign that the relationship may need some serious attention and communication to address the growing distance. 7. You feel ignored or neglected by them. When you start feeling ignored or neglected by your partner, it can be an emotional wake-up call that something isn't right in the relationship. Initially, relationships are filled with attention, care, and affection. Your partner makes you feel valued and prioritized. However, when emotional distance begins to form, those small gestures of love and attention start to fade, and it can leave you feeling invisible or unimportant. Feeling ignored or neglected doesn't always mean that your partner is deliberately trying to hurt you. Often, it's a result of them becoming emotionally distant or disengaged. They may not actively choose to neglect you, but their lack of effort to engage or show interest can make you feel unacknowledged. For example, they may fail to notice your needs, forget important dates, or no longer show the little signs of affection that once made you feel loved. When these behaviors persist, they can take a significant emotional toll. You might start questioning your self-worth, wondering if you're not enough, or if something has changed within the relationship. This feeling of neglect can also affect your overall happiness, as it creates a sense of disconnection between you and your partner. Instead of feeling supported and understood, you may feel like you're on your own, navigating the relationship alone. Neglect can also come in the form of emotional withdrawal. Your partner may stop checking in on your day, fail to ask how you're feeling, or simply show less interest in spending time with you. This lack of emotional investment creates a void, making you feel disconnected and unsupported. When you're in a relationship, you should feel like a priority, not an afterthought. If you constantly feel ignored or neglected, it's crucial to address these feelings and explore whether the emotional disconnect is temporary or something deeper within the relationship. 8. They're emotionally unavailable during tough times. When your partner becomes emotionally unavailable during tough times, it's a stark indication of emotional distance within the relationship. In a healthy partnership, one of the most important aspects is providing support for each other during challenges, whether they're personal, professional, or external stresses. However, if your partner withdraws emotionally during your moments of need, it can be incredibly isolating and hurtful. Emotional availability means being there for each other, offering comfort, understanding, and empathy when life becomes difficult. When your partner is emotionally unavailable, they might seem distant, uninterested, or even indifferent to your struggles. Instead of offering a listening ear or a shoulder to lean on, they may avoid conversations, downplay your concerns, or turn their attention elsewhere. This can leave you feeling like you're facing life's difficulties alone, which can be especially painful when you expect your partner to be your emotional rock. It's important to note that emotional unavailability during tough times isn't always deliberate. Your partner might be dealing with their own issues or emotions and may not know how to process or offer support. However, this lack of engagement can still create a significant emotional divide. It's during tough times that relationships are often tested, and how partners handle stress together can strengthen or weaken the bond. If your partner consistently pulls away when you need them most, it can lead to feelings of abandonment and insecurity, questioning whether they truly care about you and the relationship. Over time, this emotional distance can erode trust and intimacy as you begin to feel that you can't rely on your partner for emotional support. A relationship built on emotional connection should offer comfort and mutual understanding during hard times. If this connection isn't there, it can leave you feeling unsupported and disconnected, struggling to cope not just with external challenges, but also with the growing distance between you and your partner. 9. You find yourself feeling alone, even when you're together. When you find yourself feeling alone, even when you're together, it's a powerful and painful sign that emotional distance has taken root in your relationship. At the core of any healthy partnership is the feeling that you're not alone, that you have a constant companion who understands and shares your emotional world. However, when emotional withdrawal occurs, even being physically close to your partner can feel like an isolating experience. This feeling of loneliness can manifest in various ways. Perhaps your partner is physically present but emotionally distant, not engaging with you on any meaningful level. They may be there in the room with you, but are distracted by their own thoughts or devices, leaving you feeling like an outsider in your own relationship. You might long for connection, intimacy, or conversation, but find that your partner's attention is elsewhere, making you feel like you're invisible or irrelevant. The loneliness you experience in this situation is more than just a desire for companionship. It's the absence of emotional engagement. It's a deep sense of yearning for your partner to be emotionally present, to share your experiences, joys and struggles, and to make you feel understood and valued. When this emotional connection is missing, it can leave you feeling isolated and disconnected, as though you're living in parallel lives rather than a shared one. Over time, this sense of emotional loneliness can become more pronounced. You may start questioning the strength of your bond and whether your partner still values the relationship. It can create feelings of sadness, frustration, and insecurity, as you realize that being together physically doesn't necessarily mean you're connected emotionally. If this sense of loneliness persists, it's a sign that the emotional closeness you once shared needs to be addressed before it leads to further distance. 10. They stop sharing personal thoughts or feelings with you. When your partner stops sharing personal thoughts or feelings with you, it's a significant warning sign of emotional distance in the relationship. In any close, trusting partnership, sharing personal thoughts, hopes, fears, and experiences is a way to connect on a deeper level. It's a means of building intimacy and understanding, allowing both partners to support each other through life's ups and downs. However, if your partner begins to withhold these personal aspects of themselves, it can leave you feeling shut out and emotionally distant. At the beginning of a relationship, partners tend to be open with each other, confiding in each other about their day, their aspirations, their struggles, and their inner thoughts. This vulnerability fosters trust and strengthens the emotional connection. But when your partner starts to withhold this kind of sharing, it can create a rift. They might become secretive, share less about their emotions, or even stop discussing important events in their life altogether. This shift can make you feel like you're no longer part of their emotional world, or that you're no longer someone they trust to confide in. The lack of openness could stem from a variety of reasons, from personal struggles that they don't want to burden you with, to the fear of being judged, or simply growing emotionally distant over time. However, the impact on the relationship can be profound. Without sharing personal thoughts and feelings, it becomes harder to maintain an emotional connection. Conversations become more surface level, and the deep emotional intimacy that once existed starts to erode. If this behavior continues, it can lead to a growing sense of emotional isolation. You may start to feel like you're in the dark about your partner's inner world, unsure of what they're thinking or feeling, and unable to offer the support they may need. Emotional closeness thrives on communication and mutual vulnerability, and when your partner stops sharing, it can make you question the strength of your bond and whether they're still invested in the relationship. 11. Physical affection has become rare or non-existent. When physical affection becomes rare or non-existent in a relationship, it can be a painful sign of emotional distance. Physical touch, whether it's holding hands, hugging, kissing, or even a simple touch on the arm, serves as a powerful expression of love, care, and intimacy. It helps reinforce the emotional bond between partners, making them feel connected and valued. When these physical gestures disappear or become infrequent, it can lead to feelings of rejection and emotional disconnect. The absence of physical affection can happen gradually. At first, it might just be a reduction in the frequency of hugs or kisses, and then over time, those moments of closeness fade away altogether. It's important to note that physical affection isn't just about sexual intimacy. It includes the small, everyday gestures that help partners feel emotionally close. Without these expressions of warmth, it can feel like the relationship has lost its spark or that the emotional intimacy has faded. There are many reasons why physical affection may diminish, such as stress, routine, emotional disconnect, or even unresolved issues within the relationship. Sometimes one partner may withdraw emotionally and, as a result, also pull back physically, leaving the other person feeling rejected or unimportant. This lack of touch can create a void, where you no longer feel desired, appreciated, or loved in the way you once did. The impact of reduced physical affection can be deeply felt, as it often triggers feelings of loneliness and insecurity. You may begin to question whether your partner still loves you, or if they've lost interest in the relationship. When touch, a fundamental aspect of human connection, becomes absent, it can be hard to feel truly bonded to your partner. If this pattern continues, it's important to address it together and find ways to rekindle the affection that once brought you closer. 12. They avoid or delay making future plans with you. When your partner begins to avoid or delay making future plans with you, it signals a shift in their emotional investment in the relationship. One of the key signs of a committed partnership is the eagerness to make plans for the future together, whether it's something as simple as planning a weekend getaway or something more significant like discussing long-term goals and life trajectories. If your partner is avoiding these discussions or delaying plans that involve both of you, it can be a sign that they're emotionally pulling away. The avoidance of future planning can be subtle at first. They may be reluctant to commit to events or trips, or they might keep pushing back discussions about moving in together, getting married, or other long-term goals. Initially, they may offer excuses, such as being too busy or not having the right timing. But if this behavior persists, it starts to feel like they're deliberately avoiding the topic altogether. It can create uncertainty and confusion, leaving you wondering where you stand in the relationship and if they see a future with you. This delay in making plans often reflects a lack of commitment or uncertainty about the relationship. Your partner might be withdrawing emotionally or struggling with their own doubts, and instead of addressing these feelings directly, they avoid confronting the future. This can leave you feeling unimportant, as though your relationship isn't a priority in their life, or worse, that they're no longer sure of the relationship's direction. The inability or unwillingness to make future plans together also prevents the relationship from progressing. It can create a sense of stagnation, where you feel stuck in the present moment, unsure whether you're moving forward or not. When one partner stops actively planning for the future with the other, it can lead to feelings of frustration, fear, and confusion about where the relationship is heading. It's essential to address this behavior together, as it often highlights deeper emotional struggles or a shift in priorities that need to be understood and worked through. 13. You don't feel supported or understood anymore. When you no longer feel supported or understood by your partner, it can create a profound sense of isolation and emotional distance in the relationship. Feeling supported and understood is a cornerstone of any healthy partnership, as it ensures both individuals feel seen, heard, and valued. When that support wanes, it can lead to feelings of abandonment, loneliness, and even frustration. In the beginning of a relationship, partners often go out of their way to show care and support for each other, making sure the other person feels heard during times of stress or need. However, if your partner stops providing this reassurance and emotional backing, you may start to feel like you're facing life's challenges alone. This lack of support can manifest in many ways, such as when you're going through a tough time and they fail to offer empathy, when your achievements or struggles are brushed off, or when you feel like your concerns are no longer being taken seriously. When you're not understood, it can feel as if your emotions and needs are invalidated. You might express how you feel, but instead of being met with compassion or a willingness to listen, your partner may dismiss or minimize your emotions. This creates a sense of emotional disconnect, as if your personal world no longer matters to them. The emotional bond weakens when one partner doesn't make an effort to understand the other, leading to an ongoing sense of emotional neglect. Over time, this lack of support can take a toll on your self-esteem and the trust within the relationship. You might begin to feel unimportant or question whether your partner genuinely cares about your well-being. This emotional distance can grow if not addressed, leaving both partners feeling increasingly isolated from each other. Feeling unsupported and misunderstood can create cracks in the relationship, and it's crucial for both individuals to communicate openly and work together to rebuild that understanding and emotional connection. 14. You've noticed a lack of empathy towards your needs. When you notice a lack of empathy towards your needs, it's a powerful indicator that emotional distance may be creeping into the relationship. Empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another person. And in a healthy partnership, both partners should strive to be attentive and responsive to each other's emotional and physical needs. A lack of empathy, however, can lead to feelings of neglect, hurt, and frustration. If your partner seems indifferent to your needs, whether they are emotional, physical, or practical, it can be deeply disheartening. For example, if you're going through a difficult time and your partner doesn't show any concern or offer comfort, or if you're expressing a desire for more quality time together and they brush it off, it can feel like your feelings and needs are irrelevant to them. This emotional neglect can create a sense of isolation, as you may begin to feel like you're the only one invested in maintaining the connection. Empathy plays a critical role in making partners feel loved, cared for, and understood. When one partner is no longer empathetic, it can feel like the relationship is one-sided, with little regard for the emotional or physical impact on the other person. Over time, this lack of empathy can breed resentment, as the person whose needs are being overlooked may start to feel unimportant or unloved. It's also important to note that empathy involves more than just understanding your partner's feelings. It involves taking action to support them. If your partner fails to act on what they know you need, whether it's emotional reassurance, a helping hand, or simply being present, it reinforces the sense that they no longer care or are not willing to put in the effort to nurture the relationship. When empathy fades, it can significantly erode the emotional bond, leaving both partners feeling emotionally distant and unfulfilled. 15. They seem indifferent about the future of the relationship. When your partner seems indifferent about the future of the relationship, it can be one of the most unsettling signs of emotional distance. In a healthy partnership, both individuals are typically invested in creating a future together, whether it's through shared goals, dreams, or the simple desire to continue growing together. However, if your partner shows a lack of interest in discussing or planning for the future, it can make you feel uncertain about where you stand in the relationship. This indifference might appear in subtle ways, such as avoiding conversations about long-term plans, brushing off future events that involve both of you, or showing no enthusiasm about making joint decisions. When you try to talk about the future, whether it's planning a vacation, discussing living arrangements, or talking about milestones in the relationship, and they seem uninterested or indifferent, it can lead to feelings of insecurity and confusion. It's as though they're not truly seeing a long-term future with you, which can hurt, especially when you may have envisioned that future together. The indifference could stem from many reasons, such as emotional withdrawal, doubts about the relationship, or simply a shift in priorities. However, regardless of the cause, it can create a significant disconnect. The lack of enthusiasm for planning ahead suggests that your partner may not view the relationship as something that will last or evolve, which can lead to a growing sense of emotional neglect on your part. This lack of care for the future can be especially painful because it often leaves you in a state of limbo, unsure of where you stand or whether your efforts to build a lasting relationship are being reciprocated. You might begin to question your partner's level of commitment and whether they are emotionally invested in sustaining the bond between you. If this pattern continues, it can lead to the inevitable conclusion that the emotional connection is weakening and the future of the relationship is uncertain.